Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Colton, and in today's video, I want to do an end of month recap on some photos that maybe didn't make it into YouTube videos, maybe didn't get posted on Instagram or other sites for whatever reason, but that are still good photos that I would love to talk about, dissect a bit, share with you, maybe even talk about some of the circumstances or situations that led to these photos. And I think that will be really fun, and it'll give these photos a chance to actually get out there and be seen by other people. So super excited for this. I did this back in September and it was really enjoyable. So I may just make this a reoccurring thing to go back and recap some photos from the previous month. So for this month, it'll be October. And do let me know in the comments below if there are any photos that stand out to you. And if you enjoy this video, give it a like, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell so you can stay up to date when more videos come. But without further ado, here's some photos from October. All right, and the first photo that we have is the very most October photo of this set. But this is a pumpkin patch that my girlfriend and I went to kind of in early October to pick out some pumpkins that we could later carve. And so we did a drive out. I was really thinking on the way out about what kind of shots I might want to get at this pumpkin patch. And I thought, kind of a sea of pumpkins would be really interesting. And I don't know that I necessarily achieved that with this image, although it certainly has the bones of that, maybe intention here. But there just weren't enough pumpkins uninterrupted that I could get without people, sort of being in the way. So this is the closest that I got, but I still did really like this photo. To me, honestly, it screams like Microsoft desktop background or login screen. But what really stood out to me about this is the colors and really just the pop that you get from these pumpkins. This is pretty basic edits, kind of touching up the exposure and, kind of playing with the blacks, the shadows, things like that. So obviously that does impact color, but there's not any, major color adjustments going on here or major edits happening. So this is fairly similar to what came right out of the camera in the raw file. Now this was shot on the Canon R7, and this was a moment where it really kind of helped drive home that the color science from this camera really meshes well with the types of photography I like to do and the types of editing that I'm going to do. So really enjoyed that. Now I will say it ended up being over 100 degrees when we went to this pumpkin patch. So it didn't quite give the fall vibes that we were hoping for, but still a fun trip and a nice photo regardless. Now the next one here is a photo of my father in his Mazda race car. He does a lot of amateur racing around Austin. And a lot of this kind of harkened back to my childhood, where my father has raced my entire life. And when I was a kid, he was racing open wheel, like Formula 400, Formula 600 cars, and racing them on really large oval tracks. And it was just really cool to go back and look at some of the photos of that time period. 99% of those photos were taken by random people who were just around, and maybe like half of a 1% taken by me. But I was a kid back then, so the stuff that I took kind of sucked, to be honest. But a lot of this was shot, I think, almost exclusively on film of some capacity. So Polaroids, disposable point and shoot cameras, things like that. And it looking back at that stuff always makes me remember that time period and kind of wish that I could almost go back in time and take photos as the person I am now, who's interested in photography and who has a skill in photography. Obviously time travel doesn't exist, or at least that I'm aware of. So the closest I could get to that is photographing him now in his, still racing era that he's in. So I went out to one of the kind of club tracks that he races at and just tried to get some of the shots that maybe I would have gotten had I been old enough to do photography back in the 90s. And so in this shot, I've got him in his Mazda race car just before the race. So he's suited up, he's ready to go. And I really love that his car is uniquely set up perfectly for me as a photographer, the kind of things I like to shoot, because there's this very bright yellow, but then the inside, the roll cage and the interior is blue, and he's also wearing a blue racing attire. And so there's that kind of punchy color that I really enjoy in my own work. And I guess my dad unknowingly is serving up that punchy color in this photograph as well. And then, there was always going to be candy in these series. I've been shooting candy all year long. And even though the majority of the artwork for my main gallery is completed, even though the zine has been published and is ready to go, I continue to put in the work and take more candy art shots. And I have some plans for some more things to shoot here in November and December. But this is a piece of candy that, I've shot it a couple times and I've just not really felt like I got what I wanted from those shoots. And this candy is a bit tricky to photograph. So I was recently gifted a bag of this candy and thought, I'm going to take a second shot at shooting this candy, and I'll change up the color of the background. I'll kind of change up my idea of what I'm going for. And in the end, not perfect, but much, much closer to what I am liking from this particular candy. And potentially this could be an end result. We'll see as I continue to reflect on this image if I want to shoot it again or not. But I was pleasantly surprised with how this one turned out. And then, here's another race car. This one is a world championship car, though. If you're into Formula One, this is actually the 2023 Red Bull that Max Verstappen drove to the World Championship. So I actually live in Austin. We have a race here. Unfortunately, I did not attend the race, but some friends of mine after a show that we did mentioned that, hey, we saw this Formula One looking car down the street. You want to go check it out with us? And, of course, I'm like, yeah, obviously. And so we go out there and find out that it's Max Verstappen's 2023 championship car. And, you don't always have a camera with you, but sometimes you do. And in this case, I was very thankful that I had the Olympus E300, or actually rather the E500 with me, which I had put into black and white mode because I was kind of challenging myself to only shoot in black and white with this camera. What I learned is that actually this camera still shoots in color and it just puts the screen into black and white. So there may be some additional settings that I need to figure out. But once I brought it in, I reverted it back to black and white, and this is ultimately the image I got. Now, at the end of this, there'll be a bonus color shot of this car as well. And then the last main shot here from October is a restaurant I went to a few times, and I just really love how these lights are set up. And they kind of have them all over the restaurant. So I grabbed a quick shot. This was, again, kind of part of that black and white series that I was doing with the Olympus E500. And initially I was trying to crop this shot to where there wouldn't be any people in it, or at least set up the shot where there were no people in it. And after I took it, I kept saying, well, man, it's so hard not to get people in this shot. I've got two heads here right at the bottom of the shot. I guess I'm just going to have to deal with that. And the more I thought about it, I was like, well, this is kind of cool. You get some little bit of dimension and understanding as to how large these lights are because you have the context of these people enjoying their meal. And the more closely I looked at it, the more I realized these are not people. These are either plants or some kind of like statue of a human head. because they look far too similar to actually be real people enjoying their food. So I guess in a way I succeeded in cropping out the people, but yeah, sort of ended up in there anyway. And then finally, our bonus photo, another shot of Max Verstappen's car. This one I kind of wanted to include because, the car is so iconic with it being sort of this matte black, and then you have the kind of golden yellow and the red for the Red Bull logo, which really just sort of pops on this car. And also sort of a test of shooting at really, really high ISO on a camera that is almost 20 years old. The lighting was terrible for this setup. And so I think I was shooting at like 1600 ISO on a camera from 2006. So you can kind of tell that a little bit, but it actually holds up pretty well. And I was impressed with the overall resolution and just sort of smooth image, even at that higher ISO, but figured I'd include that here as well. All right, and those are the photos from October that I otherwise didn't get to share up to this point, and so now they have been given an opportunity to shine. And so let me know in the comments if there were any that stood out to you, if you have any questions, any comments, and then if you liked the video, give me a thumbs up, always appreciate that. If you want to see more content like this, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, and that'll keep you in the know for when the next video drops. But for now, I'm Colton. I'll see you in the next one.